I'm doing this video for the fourth time now. 4 times. Really? Okay, let me try again. The other times I kept being interrupted. The other time my phone died on me and it didn't warn me. And now I'm talking with my glasses on so you can't see me. And so here we go. And the other time I thought it was focused, but it wasn't. So I was on the side. So let's try again for the last time. This is part 2 of, it's a continuation of when little me didn't realize I was black. And this is when I realized I was black. Not Christian, not female, not human, black. And what that means for the non-blacks, and actually what it means for the blacks too, because we do have internalized racism. The cashier, I will go and pay for my stuff, she won't greet me. Or she'll be talking to the packer, blah, 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 blah. She won't greet me. But when a white person comes behind me, hello ma'am, can I ask, do you have a plastic, do you want a plastic bag? That is internalized racism. We don't even respect each other, but we think the whites are superior. Nobody is superior to anybody, whatever their race or their position. The pastor, the priest is not superior to you. We all have the same Bible, we all have the same God. No one is superior to anyone. But that internalized racism it needs to also go. And then it comes with its baby, which is xenophobia. But anyway, that's for another time. Hopefully I will come back to internalized racism and xenophobia. We'll see. So I've now been called kafir for the second time in my life, and I'm an adult now who knows what that means, and I felt the pain and the venom. We moved to Maritzburg. We wanted a quiet town. We wanted a village, but where we can raise cows, plant trees, plant fruit, have vegetables, that where children can play in peace, quiet country life. Unfortunately, our budget only worked for Maritzburg, which was 100 kilometers away from my husband's work, which was not close at all, and was one of the reasons why we left. But it was not one of the major reasons why we sold our house that we had bought and fixed up. And so here we go. We move into Maritzburg. The agent had been okay, and yeah, we move in. We had a fence. It was like a black fence. I'll see if I can find a picture of my 3 children playing on it. So it was in the garden. It was like, this metal fence and then space, metal fence, space, so that people could see through. My husband is outside washing the car, the children are playing on the grass, I'm watching everyone, and I see cars. This is a road and this is a T-junction. So this is the road and then this is a road. Here ends with just one house, and there are houses over here. And then behind those houses, you could see the farmland. It was beautiful. Cars were driving up as my husband was outside and we were all outside, and then making a U-turn and going back. Driving up, going back. And I was thinking, but when I viewed, I did all the viewing, because as my husband said, I'm the homeschooler. I'm the mom who will stay home all the time. So I need to like the house. So I was doing all the viewing, driving up and down to different places, from Cape Town to wherever. And I chose the house, and then we made an offer. He'd never seen it. He'd never seen the house. I just said, this is the house I want. And we made the offer to purchase it, and we bought it. So he's finally seeing the house and cleaning the car. And I tell him, I'm very suspicious. Why are all these people suddenly driving up this quiet road? It's not a main street. We went on the main road. Why? And why are so many? I mean, some would turn down, I don't know where they were going, but many were making U-turns. And I told him, I think they've bush telegraph. I hadn't thought of a WhatsApp group, because when we lived in Parklands first. The first house we bought was in Parklands. There was no WhatsApp neighborhood group that I knew of, and then we moved there. But now I'm pretty sure there was a WhatsApp neighborhood group, because now that I've moved here to Bloberg, I've been part of them and left because of the racism. So I told him there must be some kind of bush telegraph Why are they all coming to stare at us? It was unnerving, really unnerving. And we then planted almond trees, hoping that they would grow and shield us. That's how bad it was. We felt like we were in a glass bowl. So we bought almond trees and we planted them across, and then some other bushes in between, to hope that they would grow and then they would hide us from the neighborhood. Neighbors, little knowing that we would leave before they would ever grow and form extra branches to cover us. That was number one. We would take walks. We would greet people. I mean, that's what you think of small towns. Oh, we greet people everywhere, but small towns especially. You're a small community. Look it up, Moorreesburg, Moorreesburg. It's a small community. So you'd imagine that we're all neighbors, we all, they wouldn't greet us. I can say, I can't remember even one person who was friendly. Not one person in that whole town who was friendly, except for one. I'll get to him. And some would literally, it was so bad that some would turn their heads away, either when we approached them or when we greeted. And then they say, we are not human. They say, we are the animals. And then, thirdly, my children, when they'd be taking little walks, when they're 10 years old, 9 years old, they were 6-year-old children, 5-year-old children, white, and one little colored girl, playing on the streets all the time. Everyone was cycling, playing. It was small town, like America, small town. That's the picture that I have. They were happy. But my children would be tailed by the police, asked their names, asked where they live, and then followed to our home. This was reminiscent of when apartheid just ended, or before. One of my relatives and their family bought a house in Claremont, which is a white suburb. And the young teenage son was going from school, going home. And the police just rushed up. He's in his school uniform. And they were following him and asking him, where are you going? And he's like, I live here, when he was coming into the yard. And they're like, no, there's no way you can live here. And he says, this is my home. And the police radioed into head office. My relative had to phone the parents. The parents had to come and prove they live here. And it's like the son was saying, I've got keys. This was back in the 90s, but here we are in 2000 and double digit. And still the same thing is happening with children who are 10 years old, 10 and 9, girl and boy, are walking around and they've been tailed by the police and questioned. And then they would also tell us, Mom, we greeted these people, but they're not answering us. That was when it became personal, because it's one thing to ignore me, mistreat me, but when it goes onto my children, you have gone a step too far. The malice and evil in their faces became so bad, so scary, that when we'd be taking walks by the farmlands, it would be forest on one side, and then the road, and then farm fields, farmland. I would walk as far away from the road as possible with my children, so that any car coming from behind us would be less inclined to come and smash into us. That's how scared I was of Moorreesburg. And it's not just an idle fear. In Johannesburg, a black man was jogging round about that same time. I'm sure it happens many times, just that doesn't make the news. But a black man was jogging, like literally just jogging. Obviously, jogging. It's not like he had a backpack full of, carrying a stolen TV, even that wouldn't justify it. But these white people who were driving a car, 2 white men, they approached him. And he said he saw them, they were smiling, and he thought they were smiling at him and laughing. And he drove straight onto him and smashed him down, and they left. He was hospitalized. That's probably why it made the news. Racism is violent. It is violent. My husband, when we went for a farm stay owned by white people, beautiful large land, they even had buck. It's a beautiful place. The white owners were lovely. When he wanted to go jogging, he was going to go out the gate. I mean, they had a beautiful farmland, but it was all farms around there, all owned by white people, of course. And the white owner, the wife told him, please don't go out these gates, please jog within our farm, because these white men, there's especially one white farmer who, with his sons, 2 sons, when he sees white or black people rather walking around, they will get onto their quad bikes, race. Quad bikes, we black people, most of us will never afford. Race to the black man and attack them, beat them up, kick them, hurt them. And the police are racist. They get away with it. So please stay inside. So if a white person can warn you, we're not making this up. This is just a microcosm of the evil that exists in South Africa. It's evil, it is violent. One night, I assume I had a flare-up of what I know now as AS. I was sick, hot, fluish, in pain. I couldn't cook for myself. And I asked my husband to please go to the restaurant and get me food. It was an evening, maybe around 6:30, but it was darkish. And he said, you want those people to lynch me? And I thought of it and I said, no, I'd rather go hungry than for you to be attacked. I can just imagine a black man daring to walk into their restaurant on an evening. They're drinking, who knows what could have happened. I was like, no, your life is worth more than my hunger. I'll just wait till tomorrow till we go to the shops 37 kilometers away and get me some food. Because they had some food for vegetarians, but at the Spar supermarket, it's the only supermarket they had at that time in Moorreesburg, but they didn't have gluten-free. So I was hungry. Going back to the Spar. So we all have this fear, this malevolence in the air. It's in their faces, it's in their not greeting us, not greeting our children. We're driving, we're exploring, it's a new neighborhood. We're driving, it's me, it's my husband driving, me, my children, 2 children at the time. It was before we adopted, or before we adopted, yes. And we drive past the Spar. It's a small town, it's like got one street really in the town where the shops are. Oh no, but it had a ShopRite. There was a ShopRite you save for like the poorest of the poor. So we drive past, we drive down this road and we go over, out of Moorreesburg, over the N7 highway and onto a gravel path where, surprise, surprise, more farms are located. The farms, we couldn't even see the farmhouses. Those people, guys, these people have, I don't know, I'm thinking of like Texas farms. That's how big their farms are. And while we are squashed. That's why I say to you that I thought the government would take back even half of that land and say, any black person who wants to live in the countryside, come and get your 2,000 square meter of land, you know? It's vast hectares of land. So we're driving and then my husband stops and the police. When we drove past Spar, S-P-A-R, when we drove past the Spar, they had been parked in the parking lot, and I noticed them driving, but I thought they were just going wherever. But my husband had spotted them. He'd seen them driving off when we were leaving, and he'd seen that they were following us, because obviously he does look in the rear view, and he'd seen them following us all the way down the main road, across the town, over the N7 highway, onto whatever that place was called, Roville, whateverville. So he knew, he'd been aware, I hadn't been. I was having a nice Sabbath afternoon drive with my little children. They stop him. He tells me later that he had wanted them to come to the window and state their case, but he was scared that if there's a violent interaction, he didn't want the children to see it. And he was hoping that if he goes out, then they'll only be violent against him. When I looked back and I saw it was police, I thought, wow, I'm scared. This is a racist town. There are no houses nearby. It's a dust road that no one goes on. I mean, I could tell. And there are no cars coming past. They can kill us here, and no one will even know where to look for our bodies. It's not like I texted any friend to say, hi, we're now crossing the N7, we're going for a drive. I was terrified. I prayed. And the children asking, why? Why are the police stopping us? And I told them, I think it's because we're black. That's when I began talking about race with my children. I told them, I think it's because we're black, because there's no reason. We'd been driving nice and slow, and they're not traffic officers anyway. It was police officers. And it just took me back to the days when those police Caspers, little children like us playing outside, and they're driving around our streets with their huge guns pointed at us. And I thought of all the stories of our people. My mother and I were once in a taxi in Johannesburg, and the taxi driver was telling us that he had had great dreams, obviously black, but he was taken in by the police because he was black. Back then, in those bad old days, which haven't changed really much. And they beat him so bad that he got brain damage. And so he couldn't finish. He was a teenager, and he couldn't finish his schooling. So he could never he'd wanted to be a lawyer. But now all he can do is learn how to drive. And now that's what he was. He was a taxi driver. And then I thought of the one I told you in my school years, the PAC member who had also been tortured and was now in a wheelchair. This taxi officer was telling us of the electric shocks. They attached electric probes to his penis, and they shocked him, and his testicles, and they shocked. So when I saw those police stopping us, I was just like, we're dead. I hope it will be quick, and I hope they shoot my children first so my children don't see their mother being shot. I didn't. So they wanted my husband to give him proof of ownership of the car. He did dare to ask, why? Is there a car that has been reported stolen that fits this description? And they said, no, it's just for security. But for the sake of safety, he did. Also, this is the unfortunate thing. He has an accent that's even more pommy than mine is. So he said when he started speaking, their faces changed. And I hate that, because it's their fault that black people have a black accent when speaking English, because they sent black people there to teach us English, and black English is not our first language. So obviously most black people will have a black accent. That is an obvious case. But if you have this white accent, then it seems to them that you're more cultured. When it really just means we had a better education. And I do mean that. A white education when we were growing up, when I was growing up, and him as well, was better than the black education that they were allowing the blacks to have. It is true. I mean, they were only educating us in the black schools to be good enough to do serving tea, to wash their toilets and clean their bathrooms. That's what they were doing. The coloreds, they could become dental technicians or dental hygienists. So, they could, or optical assistants, they could do that. Or work in factories, like as the managers. We blacks, maybe we could go work in the factory as the people who put the pieces together, that. So, yeah. And I remember one guy in Maritzburg, he turned around when he heard me on the phone when I was waiting at the co-op. It was, I told you, it's a small town. So at the farm co-op, I'm buying something. And I hate this. You speak such good English. It's patronizing. I don't like it. I remember a white man when I was going to get money from Renings, I think. So they changed international money into South African money. We'd received money from somewhere. And I'm getting the money, so I asked him here, I give him my ID and stuff, and he says, you speak such good English. Why can't the others speak like you? That is my problem. If you don't let us learn with you, how will we speak like you? Because I'm speaking like you. That's what you are deeming as proper English. The fact that a black person can speak English is good enough, given all the other languages we already know and have to learn. Just hold on a bit. Accent is not a measure of intelligence. It can't be. Accent is really not a measure of intelligence. And why is it that a French accent is sexy, but an African accent is uneducated? That is a total lie. We can be very cultured with our black accent. And I hate the fact that, unfortunately, this is also amongst us black people. When my mother was a preschool teacher, and because I went to my white school, and then I would go and spend the day at her work before going home. And all the children were black, all the teachers were black. So they would sing songs like, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. You know, I joined in. Honestly, I thought it was a different language. I really thought it was a different language. So I sang like the children were singing. And my mother told me, sorry, the children are back, so yeah. My mother heard me singing with a black accent, and she told me, sing properly, i.e., sing with your white accent. And at home, this is why I don't have a black language that I can express 100% fluently. They spoke to each other in isiXhosa, one speaking to the other, who then answer in Sesotho. But then to me, it was English. I had to be English, because English meant education and stuff. And even as an adult, when we had a camp with some women from church, one of the ladies said that I should read because I read nicely. No, I'm proud of my children who love the deeper the African accent, the better. So they love this Malawi man who left our church. He had a very strong African accent from Malawi, and they loved it. That's what I love. See beauty in these accents. It's not only the French and the Italian that are beautiful. African accents are beautiful too. And also, I would love to hear you speaking isiXhosa or isiZulu or Sesotho, because every white person I've heard, except for one, every white person I've heard who has tried, they speak with a white accent. So it's not like you're not doing any better than we are. Anyway, so he said, my husband says, when the policeman heard his accent, their attitudes already kind of changed. And there's this thing of the better black, which I hate. So if you have me and you have another black person with a black accent, they will hire me purely because of the accent. And they won't look at his work ethic, etc. It's just ingrained that the closer to white you are, the more acceptable you are. So the police stopped us. He showed them proof of ownership, which he happened to have in the dashboard, and we left. And then there was the colored man who was filling my car, and he told me that the other coloreds are jealous of me when they see me driving my car because they don't have cars, and they're like, why would a black person have a car? Why should they? And he was saying, I don't care, we're all God's children. And I'm sure if they saw me filling your car now with petrol, they'll be not happy, but we're all God's children. And I can see that you don't look down on us, you don't hate us. And there was another colored man. I was holding my husband's hand, we were taking a walk, and this colored man says, you two are definitely not South African. South African black people don't know how to love. And we coloreds hate black people. Especially Xhosas. We really hate Xhosa people. They're uneducated, they're violent, they're this, they're that. We just let him talk his nonsense, because you can't change such attitudes. You really can't. And why should your colored measure of love be a sign of love? Anyway, We have a lot that we've gone through. Our people have been abused, trauma has passed on. There are some things that we do fail on, it's true, but it's not our fault, really, really not our fault. So we're feeling it from the white people, we're feeling it from the colored people. And because of that, and the way it was spilling onto our children, we said, no, we can't do this. Our children can't live in a place where they're hated. Here's the last kicker. So there were these children who used to play in front of our yard. One lived across from us, one lived 2 doors down. White children. We were the only black people there. And they used to sometimes play with a little colored girl. I don't know where she lived. And then one day, I'm in the house taking care of the baby, and my children come in, 10 and 9 years old, and they're bringing this boy in, white boy, he's around 8. And they said, oh, Mom, he said he wants to come and play, he's lonely. My heart just sank. It sank, because I knew what those people were like. I became scared. I thought, what if she thinks we kidnapped her child? You know, I just knew. Guys, unfortunately, it's almost like they went and built, look up Urania. There's a place called Urania. It's like they'd gone and built an Urania in Maritzburg, where we were. So I knew that the mother wasn't exactly gonna be happy clappy. So I told them to go play on the swing, hoping that when she comes, she finds them outside and not being, I don't know, juju'd or voodoo'd by Ama, being inside indoors with me. Yeah, she did come. Rang the bell. She didn't say, hi, I'm Lydia. I'm looking for my son Ryan. Is he playing here? I'm looking for my son. Okay, nice to meet you too, witch. So she came and she looked at them, and I told her they're outside. She just went around inspecting my whole house. What madness is that? She got her child and walked out. From that day on, poor little Ryan was never allowed to play in front of our yard ever again. They're getting them young. And this is how racism will keep going on, because the generation teaches the next generation to hate. So we lived in Maritzburg. We sold the house. And when let me tell you the nice thing. It wasn't all bad. We were taking a walk, my husband and I, and this white man who was living on the T-junction, he calls us over, come. Well, obviously he was white. Everyone else was white who owned the houses there. So he calls us, come, let me shake your hands, which was new. Let me shake your hands. Nice to have you here. Welcome. When I saw you people, I told my wife, wow, it's the first black people to live here. This is exciting. This is wonderful. And this is where I say that they must have had a bush telegraph. He says, ignore these people. These people are just racists. They're racist mapulo, which is the Xhosa word for bura, which is the Afrikaans word for farmers, which became just a word we used for the Afrikaans people, because Afrikaners were usually the farmers. They're just racist mapulo, ignore them. And I thought, okay, so obviously either they're all talking or they're WhatsApping each other. I tried to join a homeschool group. I asked about an outing that I'd seen advertised on Facebook in the WhatsApp group. They ignored me. Not a single person answered to tell me where we're meant to meet, what time. Evil. Racism is evil. And that had happened here in Bloberg as well, before we'd gone to Maritzburg. There was a meeting for mothers, homeschool moms. I went. I was the only black homeschool mom. Those people ignored me. One person did try and greet me. That I will give her. They ignored me. I was a brand new person. They'd been meeting for ages, but no one asked me to introduce myself, what curriculum I'm using, how many children I have. Nothing. They just had their meeting as if I wasn't there. And when I left, not a single person said, hey, what's your name? Do you want to know when the next meeting will be? Nothing. You don't need the K word to know that you're not welcome. I never went back. And I hesitate to even join Western Cape groups now because of that. We are on our own, and the government does say that homeschooling parents, the government is currently against homeschooling because they say it's racist parents who don't want their children to learn amongst black children. I agree. I'm very sure many of them don't. But that's not the only reason they're homeschooling, believe me. So we left Moorreesburg and I thought, okay, it's time to rent a place. Wow. Everywhere, Paul, Momsbury, Stellenbosch, when you try and rent in a white neighborhood, it doesn't work out. One case even made it into the newspaper where my friend was seeing the pattern before I was. She was saying, but you're calling these people 6 hours after it's advertised, 5 hours. How can it already not be available to you? You know? Or they would say, oh, give me your number and your name, I'll call you back, and they never would. So I called a place in Paarl. It was beautiful farmland. The owner's house was far away from this rental house. We wouldn't bother each other. And the person, the agent, Pam Golding agent, told me, oh, it's not available, sorry. So you can't book a viewing, because the advert had said, phone to book a viewing. And I thought, this was like 3 hours ago that it was posted. There's no way it's not available. My friend phones, my white friend, and of course, it was available and she could go and see it on Thursday. This was a Tuesday. And she was saying, should I come with you? And then we both go view it. And I said, but there's no point. They don't want a black person. So as soon as we say, I'm the one who's going to be living there, they will say no. We tried to buy places. My friend, white friend of adopted children, colored, she saw a sign for a farm that was on sale. I phone. I've got this accent. The man starts telling me, yeah, it is for sale. It's got this number of bedrooms, but I need to check with my lawyer. He said there are some requirements, and then it was a South Africanism that he used, so I will just state what he meant. There are some requirements that I have to stick to, but isn't it good that we are led by the DA? Now, the DA is allegedly anti-racist, but it is white and racist. I believe it's racist. Their first leader was racist. The black people are window dressing. But anyway, aren't we glad, isn't it good that we in this province are governed by the DA? Because that way, at least I don't have to sell my house to a black person. There we go. And that is the thing. We can't rent, they don't want us. We can't even buy. They will not sell to us black people. Needless to say, when he said, okay, can I have your name and number, then I'll phone you after I see him. As soon as he heard my name, he went dead silent. And of course, the phone call never happened. That is what it's like living in South Africa. And yes, that was 2017, but it continues. We moved finally, a white adoptive couple, lesbian. I'm just saying that because so many people, Christians, think lesbians are evil. No, racists are evil. They said, we've got a friend who we know who wants to rent her place part-time. Do you think it would work? I know it's got very few rooms. It doesn't have the number of rooms you want. And what I will say is there was another white person who had been reading my blog, and she was disgusted by her fellow white people. So she had offered us a place to stay, but it was also, few bedrooms, and the rent was going to be high for us. And she said there was damage and water leaking, so we just said, it's okay, thank you for the offer. But we were really grateful for the offer. She didn't know me from Adam. What if I was a secret smoker and was going to burn holes in her carpets or something? But yeah, so we moved into this person's place temporarily, and it's in Philadelphia, also a small town surrounded by beautiful farmland and farmhouses. But we were just in a normal house. Our neighbors were lovely. We moved to Philadelphia. The white lady, they were both white and they'd adopted a little black boy. And they tell us, and there's a vineyard. We all go walking on it. I'm not sure who it belongs to, but it's like an open park. Everyone just goes and walks around the vineyard. It was beautiful. And it was like up a hill, so it was good exercise as well. You know, it wasn't just flat. And in my head, I thought, yeah, but all of you guys are white. Down the hill, there was a colored township. I didn't know any black people who lived around there. We were the only black people I knew. So I just thought, it's nice to be clueless. It's open to you, but I don't know about us and what people will think. But we decided to brave it one day. I went with my children, pushing the pram. We adopted both little kids and my older children. And then we're taking a walk, and this man, there were houses bordering the vineyard, houses over here, and then here was the vineyard and other farmlands over the hill, and then other farmland on this side. So the man, one of the men who lived here, he heard his dogs barking. He came out to see, and he shouts in Afrikaans, "Go away!" He said, "Weg, julle moet weggaan." Thankfully, my children don't understand English. I mean Afrikaans. I didn't care. So I just kept walking up, taking my walk, pleasant walk. And my children even thought he was talking to the dogs. They didn't realize. We took a walk, came back. The vineyard was nice. It really was lovely. But on two separate evenings, obviously they're separate. My husband and I got home. I mean, he'd get home late from work, and then we'd take an evening stroll. So sometimes it would be dusk. You know, it's getting dark as we go home. And twice, a police van would park in the street as we were approaching. The second time, I actually saw it coming down our street as we were going to go down. So I knew they were coming in response to us. And the police would come and then turn their car so that when we're coming down the street going home, they're facing us and their lights would be shining in our faces. It was blinding. We didn't give them the satisfaction of knowing we bothered. We just walked on and walked into our home and locked up. These people are just, it's evil, man. So when we went to the police station once to do paperwork for our adoption, the colored officer tells us, these people here where you live are so racist. They hate your guys' guts. And when they call, when like there's been crime, they will say that you did it. Meanwhile, we'd also been victims of crime. Some criminal had come in and stolen my laptop. So, whatever. But yeah, it says they're watching you. Those CCTV cameras on their gates and walls, they are watching you. Whenever you're walking somewhere, they will phone and say, come and watch these people. And we're saying, but why? There's nothing they've done. And why are you accusing them of the crime? What evidence do you have? So I thought, there we go. I knew it. I just knew it. The police cars, it wasn't just out of the blue. And he said, you know, they are taxpayers. We have to go investigate suspicious activity. But after 2 times, we told them, no, there's nothing that these people are doing. They're just a family. And the hill, the vineyard, some people would ignore us completely, pretend we're not there. There was this one couple, young, that's the sad thing, they were young, who, if they saw us approaching, they would turn back, making sure that they don't come past us. The one time they're walking amongst the vines, so they hadn't seen us, we'd seen them going in, and we were gonna approach each other. They came out, they saw us, and they went back into the same path. You know, it's one thing to be reminded that you're black, maybe, oh, your skin is so beautiful, I love the darkness, or I like your hair. Because when I was a child, that's how it was. Oh, could you have a tan like yours? Or how do you get your hair so curly? So I was reminded I was black, but it was a positive. That those people in Maritzburg and Philadelphia made it clear that my blackness, my Africanness was disgusting. It was unwanted. It was unwanted. And that is when I started identifying myself as a black person, a black Christian, not just a Christian, but a black Christian, because that's what people see when they see me, black. And yes, that was 2017, and we've now lived here now. But I've seen the comments in the neighborhood groups. I've even called people out before leaving for their racism. In fact, we became friends with one white woman because she also agreed that whatever that white person had said in the neighborhood group was racist. And so for the black people who like to say, ignore the word K, the K word, when they call you, it means nothing, it's just a word, don't give them power. The thing is, they have the power. Those people are the ones who make decisions at work. They're the ones who do most of the hiring, especially in Cape Town. They're the ones who are the what's it called, the directors, the managers, the CEOs, the CIOs. They're mostly white. They're the supervisors. So you'll find a case I know of personally where you have two people, both not performing, like performing poorly at the same poor level. One black, one white. The black is fired. The white is given by their white supervisor, is told, you're really struggling. We will give you a mentor. I'll see if there's any capex, or I don't know what it's called. Sorry, I'm thinking retail language now. I don't even understand retail language. We'll see if there's any funding to hire you a mentor to help smoothen this journey and help you to understand how to work. But they fired the black person, and they didn't give them that opportunity. That is what is happening. That is the kind of stuff happening. The blacks don't get the promotions. And so, yes, the K word is bigger than just the word. It's an attitude. It's a belief. It's a thought pattern. And it will translate into action. So the K word is a lot. Even if we don't hear it, they're thinking it. So that is how I became an African Sabbath keeper, because they see African. But as I said, they are shining, there are bright lights. There are people who make me say unequivocally, not all people are racist. Not all white people are racist. Church was a mess in Maritzburg. There was no church in Philadelphia. But in Maritzburg, we went. Of course, we're the only black people. They ignored us completely, like we didn't exist. So we left and never went back to that church ever again. But there was the man who wanted to shake our hands, tell us he's excited about us being there in Maritzburg. And there was the shopkeeper in Philadelphia who was very kind to my children and respectful to us adults. Thank you to her. And there are people like my friends. You see, this is the other thing, generational wealth is a big problem. We are scraping ourselves up from the bottom. Our parents don't have the high pensions the white people, not all, but many white people have. We can't inherit farms like some of my friends have, where they've inherited farms and they get huge proportions of money because the farm is fully paid for if it was ever bought. And they have this money that they can then buy a house, cash. We don't have that. We don't have that cushion. Instead, we have to provide for our parents. My friend, they have a car. Her mother is retired, but the mother decided, I will buy and finance a car for you, and you can pay me back when your finances improve and automatic. We don't have that cushioning. And so we're beginning at a terrible disadvantage. And then they disadvantage us at work also. We do have our faults as black people, I won't lie. But racism also does exist. And that will never change because they're teaching it to their children. And that is the story of how I realized that I'm black and ugly, black and hated, black and subhuman, from those people in Maritzburg and Philadelphia. Well done. You did a wonderful job showing the evil within you. And as for you Adventists, there's no heaven for racists. You're like the racists in 1993. I thought time had changed. We went to a wedding and we knew in Durban. We went to a church, my parents and I and my sister and an extended family member. We sit down in the pews, we get our Bibles, we put them down, we get our hymn books because they were singing. And then this person, who I didn't even really know was white. We were all people, that's the thing. For me, especially, I just see people. I don't see white women, black women. I just see people. So a person, happened to be white male, comes to talk to my dad, and my dad whispers that we must leave. I was thinking, why? I was 13. So we leave, and my dad says, that was the elder of the church, Seventh-day Adventist. He told us that we should leave and go to a different church that he will tell us about, where we will be more comfortable. And then he directed us to a black church. We had been comfortable. We were comfortable. We were sitting and reading the hymn, singing the hymn, and then we were going to listen to whoever's presenting up front. We were comfortable. But those white people in that lily white church were not comfortable. Which means in heaven they will definitely not be comfortable, because all races will be represented. And I will say this, if you are an unrepentant racist, there's only one place you're going, and it's not God's heaven. Better change now. Don't call yourself a Christian, because you might as well not be a Christian. And that I know God approves of that truth. It is a truth. Don't call yourself a Christian if you're racist. All right? Thank you.